Can we talk for a minute about our Integrating Heart and Mind workshop?
Absolutely. I'm excited. It's coming up in the fall of 2024.
I'm so excited. We changed the format to make it more accessible to people with like work schedules and personal schedules. And so this time we're going to do it 3 hours on a Friday afternoon or evening, depending on where you're at, and 5 hours on Saturday for 2 different weeks in September.
Yeah, it's so great. Like if you're finding yourself stuck in like sticky bad patterns or having communication issues or something like that, or if you want to just like get closer and trust yourself or your partner more, this is the workshop for you.
Yeah, and individuals are welcome, couples are welcome. If you're interested in really thinking through how to serve yourself well inside of your relationships, then we've built a workshop that will support you in finding the ways that are just right for you.
To sign up, head over to our website at whydoesmypartner.com/events.
We hope you'll join us. Welcome to the Why Doesn't My Partner podcast.
I'm Jules.
I'm Vickey.
And I'm Rebecca. We're your hosts. We're also couples therapists and messy humans bumbling through our own relationships every day.
We met through our training and practice of relational life therapy. Between us, we have more than 40 years of experience holding hard relational questions with our clients. We're going to bring those questions here.
And together, we're going to take a stab at answering those questions. This podcast is not a substitute for therapy. If something you hear in this episode stirs something deep within you about your relationship, reach out to a couples therapist in your area.
We also love to hear your questions, so don't forget to go over to whydoesmypartner.com and leave us a question of your own. Here's today's question. Why does my partner say that they are focusing on their stuff, but it feels like nothing changes ever? They want me to focus on my stuff, but it doesn't feel like they ever focus on theirs. Is this everybody's relationship?
I think this is every relationship that I have ever been in or has ever walked into my office.
Yeah. Totally.
So first of all, the easy answer, why does my partner want me to focus on my stuff? Because it's easier to tell me what I'm doing wrong than it is to look at what you're doing wrong.
And on the other side, the easy answer to why doesn't it feel like they're ever focusing on their stuff is because you don't see what they're actually doing on the inside.
Totally.
Just like they don't see what you're doing.
Yeah. And sometimes we do. Sometimes people are really doing a ton of stuff on the inside and nothing's changing on the outside yet. And you just give it time and it will. And sometimes we do work in a spiritual bypassy sort of way, or in like a around the thing sort of way. So like I'm part of the internal family systems community. I'm an IFS therapist. I've been IFS trained for years. I know a lot of people in that community. It's not uncommon when clients first get into IFS therapy that they hear about the C words that go with self. So self-energy is like, for anybody who doesn't know IFS, self-energy is like more of an integrated brain state, like a center of who you are sort of state. And Dick Schwartz, the guy who sort of wrote all this stuff down, I won't say he created it because he doesn't even think of it like that. It's more like he listened to people and wrote down what they told him about how they experienced their inner mind. But he came up with this list of C's, and I never can say the 8 out loud, even though I've been an IFS therapist for years, but I always only get 6 or 7 of them. Calm, curious, courageous.
Centered?
No. I'm telling you, I can never come up with all of them, but here's the thing. Calm is the one you need to know. Because I'll tell you, the number of people who are kind of into IFS say, well, if I'm calm, then I'm in self.
I got all 7 of them, by the way, if we want them.
Did you? There's 8.
Yeah. 8. I got all 8 of them.
Okay, Sam.
Okay. So it's curiosity, compassion, clarity.
Compassion. Come on, Jules. Clarity. Yes.
Connectedness.
Amen.
I mean, I should know that one. Creativity. courage, confidence, and calm.
Yes. And so it's not uncommon if somebody starts getting into this sort of thing that they'll kind of do a pseudo version of those things to be in the centered self space, right? And what's happening is that they're trying to do inner work. I'm not saying anything bad about anybody. Promise, promise, promise. It's sometimes part of your journey. It's been part of my journey. Sometimes I have to mimic it before I can actually do it.
100%.
I get that. Yeah. But it may be that some of the work that's happening is more in that kind of sideways way or around the real work way or a mimicky version of the work way or a spiritual bypassy sort of way that keeps you out of doing the really hard U-turn where you go, oh shit, I am doing this wrong and I need to help myself be different. That is a big journey.
I also wonder though, if like Gabe and I have had this conversation. So there's some of the work that I'm doing that affects our relationship. Absolutely. A lot of the work I'm doing in my individual therapist, I might have even said this here, is he's never going to notice it because it's literally, I can just feel my brain changing. And it's things that he can't see, such as 2 years ago at Christmas, I was not even running errands. I went out to get gifts and simply the way I'd mapped out which stores to go to in which order was different than I would have the year before. And I remember thinking, oh, last year I would have just gone like in order by which one I hit. And this year I'm thinking about the one-way streets and the way to get out and what makes more sense for coming home. And I'm going a different way. And that's from my therapy. And Gabe will never see that because that's all in my head. Like it's the way I think. I don't want to say it's my imagination. But so it could be that the work your partner's doing is happening so much in your partner's head that you can't see that they're seeing the world differently.
Or it's not happening in their head, it's happening in their body, or it's happening.
Thank you.
Like one of the things that I'm thinking of is my partner and I are both, we do a lot of work around our relationship and around ourselves. And one of the things that happens are these like little minute moment to moment type shifts where we're embodying something different, where there's a different felt sense, where we're learning how to resource ourselves differently, where, there's a different kind of resilience that is developing between us, or a different understanding of what integrity is, or right. Like there's these different sometimes like tiny, minute, micro things that we're chewing on for weeks and learning how to integrate. And so like, I'm bringing that up because who are any of us to sort of judge, like let's name it as judgment, right? What it is to work on stuff. The working on stuff can take so many different shapes. And maybe one of the things I might be working on is that I really want to avoid owning this. Right? Yeah.
I'm just thinking about how easy it is to focus more on what somebody else is doing or not doing and how that affects how they're treating you
so much
than it is. It's so much easier to focus on that. And in fact, it's easier to focus on it and even complain inside of your own mind about it than it is to say, oh, this thing that's happening between us isn't working for me. Because really what I hear behind this question, one of the pieces that I'm hearing, one of the threads I'm hearing behind this question is, oh, it sounds like whether they're doing work or not, or whatever work is happening inside, it's not affecting the thing that you're hoping it would affect.
Right.
So you could tell them what you're hoping would change. And what work would you need to do in you to make that possible?
And that's vulnerable.
Oh, it's super vulnerable because they may not see it the same way you. They may not want what you want. They may not.
You know what I'm
watching your
back
face,
to?
Rebecca. Yeah.
I'm coming back to like one of our very first ever podcast episodes, right? The one about the dishes.
Oh,
right?
first.
Remember? So, because I think this is like a real conversation, right? People come in and they have different ways of managing or doing things like the dishes. Like you load the dishwasher wrong. Why do you need to put them in the dishwasher? Why don't you just wash them by hand? I don't like the way you're washing them. You're putting them away when they, whatever the thing is, right? Like we have different ways. Or you don't do them quick enough. You let them pile up in the sink, right? Like, why do you need to do them before we're even done putting dinner on the table? Like all of the things, everybody has different ways of managing the dishes. And this is like a common thing, right? You live with somebody else and you're going to kind of butt up against these differences. And like, literally, I have a lot of couples who come in and we're talking about the dishes. And one of it's like so
it's
real.
A shockingly common. If you were not a therapist out there, you're listening, you'd be shocked how common this conversation is inside of our offices.
And I find that one of the things that sometimes like there's these two edges. One is that one partner like has to sit in the discomfort and learn how to like sit with it a little bit. And the other partner sometimes has to sit with it enough to go like, oh, I could see why that's bothering them and why I might want to do this instead. Right. And so like, sometimes there's actually like, if my leaving the dishes in the sink and not tending to them is the thing that's bothering you, and you want to tell me like, I really need you to do the dishes more frequently or quicker or not leave them in there for 2 days. Like I might need to get to the point where it bothers me before I realize that it would actually be easier for me to do them more frequently. If it's even my job, or maybe we need to renegotiate that. So, but I might need to have an experience where I'm affected by it.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about tools, tricks, things we could say that would help people get out of the double finger point. Well, you're not. Well, you're not. Well, you're not working as hard on your stuff as I'm working on my stuff, which is basically what we're dealing with here, right?
We've got one of these.
We've got the crossed fingers blaming each other. Like one thought I have about coming out of it would be we could actually say out loud we don't like it and make agreements not to compare our inner work to each other's. We could say that.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome. We could say we do care about hearing about the inner work. So we could say we make an agreement where I share about my inner work or what's coming up for me, and you share about your inner work and what's coming up for you, but we don't comment on each other's.
One made me a little uncomfortable.
Face.
I know, it made me a little uncomfortable because
why?
Well, because I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh wait, it feels like there's, even if we're not commenting on it, it feels like there's some kind of judgy or grading system that might implicitly like lie inside of there. And maybe I just want to really do my work and I need that to be mine.
It could be. And if you're one of those people, then say no, right?
Yeah.
The reason I think about it is that it's a possibility of opening up into more vulnerability with each other.
Yeah.
So when I share the inner work, it's not about whether or not you're going to judge it or think that I'm doing it right or wrong or good enough or focusing on the right or wrong thing. It's more about like, I want to tell you what my inner work is like because I want you to know my inner world.
That feels totally different to me.
So it comes from that space. When I think about that agreement, it has to come from that space rather than we're going to make an agreement that you report to me what you're doing in therapy. Please don't do that. Oh God, please don't do that. That is a terrible idea. Don't do that. If you heard me say that, I did not say that. And that is a terrible idea. Do not do that.
But what is different for me is like my partner and I have these moments where when one of us is working on something and we're like confronting it in the moment, like within ourselves, we kind of have this way of being able to turn to each other and say, oh, I'm really struggling with this thing. Can you hold it with me? And can I share it with you right now? So, you know, like
that's like that's
wonderful.
Yeah. And it really is awesome, but it's taken a decade or more of work, right? We've been married much more than a decade, but like a decade of work to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one more thing just to kind of land on here. When we're noticing that we're asking this question, why are they focused? They say they're focusing on their stuff, but it feels like nothing ever changes. They want me to focus on mine, but it feels like they don't ever focus on theirs. When we're asking a question like that, I wonder if we could turn, just like you're talking about that vulnerability piece, if we could just turn that around and go, what is my work? And how could I share that? What have I been working on? Right. And it might be like, make space for it to be big or small. There's no size requirement here. Right. It could be that I'm working on reaching out and opening up and being more vulnerable with you. It could be that, I'm working on just noticing when a big feeling comes through me. It could, there's a lot of different things it could be. And we don't get to tell each other what that work gets to be.
Right. This is the piece. We do not control each other's process. So when we're trying to manage it, it's so hard. Because what your inner work, so my husband's inner work affects our marriage. My husband's inner work affects my life. I care. But if I move into management, I'm doing a psychological boundary violation.
That's right.
My psychology is now messing in his psychology. It's invasive and it's not great couple work. So I love the suggestion that you're making, Rebecca. If you're in that space, you could try modeling what that vulnerability might look like.
Right.
And just doing your side of it.
Yeah. Even if you're doing it really awkwardly and you're stumbling along the way, go ahead and be awkward.
Yeah. Let's leave it there. All right.
All right, y'all. Take care. Be awkward.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That wraps up this week's episode. Join us again next week for another Why Does My Partner?
We hope that you continue to listen wherever you get your audio and that you'll follow the show.
To go deeper, join us at our boot camp. You'll find the next date at whydoesmypartner.com.
Did you know you could ask us your question?
Your questions are relational gold.
Go to whydoesmypartner.com to either write in or record your question for a future episode.